Hello, everyone. I am very happy you are here today. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders relax. There is no need to hurry. This is your time to enjoy English. Today, I want to tell you something that many learners never notice. They work hard. They study every day. They read books. They watch videos. They learn new words. But they still think, my English is not getting better. Maybe you have felt the same way. Maybe you have asked yourself, why is this taking so long? Why do I still make mistakes? When will I finally speak naturally? These are normal questions. Almost every English learner asks them. The problem is not that you are learning slowly. The problem is that real progress is often very quiet. It does not knock on your door. It does not suddenly change everything in one day. Instead, it grows little by little. It grows so quietly that many people never notice it. Imagine watching a tree every morning. On Monday, it looks the same. On Tuesday, it still looks the same. On Wednesday, nothing seems different. But after many weeks, you suddenly realize something. The tree is taller. It has more leaves. It has become stronger. The tree was growing every single day. You just could not see it. Learning English is very similar. Many changes happen inside your mind before you notice them. Your brain is always learning. It remembers sounds. It remembers patterns. It remembers simple expressions. Even when you think nothing is happening, your brain is still working. That is why you should never lose hope. Small changes become big changes. Small steps become long journeys. One page becomes one book. One sentence becomes one conversation. One conversation becomes confidence. Most learners only look for big success. They want to understand everything. They want to speak perfectly. They want to sound like a native speaker. Those are wonderful goals, but they are not the best way to measure your progress. Instead, look for the small signs. They are much more important. These quiet signs tell you that your English is becoming part of you. Today, we will discover those signs together. Some of them may surprise you. Some of them may already be happening. Perhaps you have noticed one without realizing how important it is. If that is true, you are already moving forward. The first change is so small that many people completely miss it. It happens during an ordinary day. You are reading a short story, or maybe you are listening to someone speak. Then something unexpected happens. For just one moment, you stop translating. You simply understand. It may only last for 1 second, maybe 2. Then your mind begins translating again. Many learners think, that was just luck. But it was not luck. It was your brain trying something new. When we first learn English, we often translate every word. We see an English word. Then we search for the meaning in our own language. That is a natural way to begin. Almost everyone learns like that. Translation is a bridge. It helps us cross from one language to another. But we are not supposed to stay on the bridge forever. One day we quietly step off it. Imagine someone says, apple. At first, you may think of the word in your own language. After enough practice, something changes. You no longer think about another word. Instead, you see a bright red apple in your mind. You can almost hold it. You can almost smell it. The picture arrives before the translation. The same thing happens with simple words like coffee. You do not stop to translate. You imagine a warm cup. You see the steam. You remember the smell. Your mind begins connecting English directly to real life. That is a beautiful change. Now imagine hearing the word rain. You may picture dark clouds. You may hear drops hitting the window. You may remember walking outside with an umbrella. Again, there is no translation. There is only meaning. This is how children learn their first language. They do not translate words. They connect sounds with people. They connect sounds with feelings. They connect sounds with real experiences. Little by little, your brain begins doing the same thing with English. That does not happen because you are smarter. It happens because you have spent time with the language. Every page you read helps. Every story you hear helps. Every simple conversation helps. None of those moments are wasted. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle. At first, you think about everything. Your hands, your feet, your balance. Every small movement feels difficult. But after enough practice, you simply ride. You are no longer thinking about every movement. Your body already knows. English grows in much the same way. At first, your mind works very hard. Later, it works more quietly. You may not notice the change right away. But one day, after finishing a page or listening to a short story, you suddenly realize something. For a few moments, you understood English without translating every word. That moment is small. It is quiet. But it is very important. Because another quiet change is already beginning. Another quiet change often surprises people. You begin to understand English even when you do not know every word. Many learners believe this is impossible. They think every word must be clear. They think every sentence must be perfect. Only then can they understand. But real language does not work that way. Think about your own language. Sometimes you hear a word you have never heard before. Sometimes you read a sentence with a new expression. Do you stop understanding everything? Usually you do not. You continue listening. You continue reading. You understand the main idea. English becomes the same. Imagine reading a short story. Most of the words are easy. Only one word is new. You notice it. For a moment, you wonder what it means. But this time, something is different. Instead of stopping, you keep reading. The next sentence gives you a clue. The next paragraph gives you another clue. Little by little, the meaning becomes clearer. You never opened a dictionary. You never translated the word. But somehow you understand it. That feeling is wonderful. It shows that your brain is learning naturally. Imagine a little boy walking into a room. His friends are smiling. There is a cake on the table. Colorful balloons cover the walls. Everyone begins singing together. Then you read a new word. Celebrate. Perhaps you have never studied it before. But the story tells you enough. The smiles help you. The cake helps you. The balloons help you. The happy voices help you. Without anyone explaining the word, you already understand it. That is not guessing. That is real learning. Your brain is collecting small clues. Then it quietly builds the meaning. This happens more often than many people realize. It happens while reading. It happens while listening. It even happens during conversations. Many beginners believe they should stop every time they meet a new word. So they open a dictionary. They search for one meaning. Then they return to the story. A few lines later, another new word appears. Again, they stop. Again, they search. Soon, they forget what the story was about. Their attention is no longer on the message. It is only on individual words. Reading becomes slow. Reading becomes difficult. Reading becomes less enjoyable. But stronger learners slowly develop a different habit. They become comfortable with not knowing everything. At first, this feels strange. It may even feel a little uncomfortable, but they keep going. They trust that the story will help them. Most of the time, it does. Imagine walking through a beautiful forest. You notice the tall trees. You hear birds singing. You feel the cool wind. Sunlight shines through the leaves. Then someone quietly says one unfamiliar word. Does the whole forest disappear? Of course not. You still know where you are. You still understand the moment. Language works in much the same way. One unknown word cannot erase the whole picture. The picture remains. That is why understanding the main idea is much more important than understanding every word. The big picture comes first. The small details come later. As you continue reading simple English, your confidence begins to grow. You stop worrying every time you meet something new. Instead, you become curious. You ask yourself, what might this word mean? Then you keep reading. Sometimes your first guess is wrong. That is perfectly fine. Sometimes your guess is very close. That is wonderful. Every guess teaches your brain something new. Learning is not about being perfect. Learning is about getting a little closer every day. Think about putting together a large puzzle. At the beginning, many pieces are missing. You cannot see the whole picture. Then you find another piece, then another. Slowly, the picture begins to appear. You do not wait until every piece is finished before understanding what the picture shows. English grows in the same quiet way. Every story adds another piece. Every lesson adds another piece. Every conversation adds another piece. One day, you finish reading a page. Then you suddenly realize something. There were several words you did not know, but you understood almost everything. You smiled without thinking, not because every word was easy, but because the meaning reached you. That is a very special moment. It means your brain is no longer reading one word at a time. It is beginning to read ideas. It is beginning to read meaning. That is how people naturally understand language. The change is slow. The change is quiet, but it becomes stronger every single day. And as understanding becomes easier, something else begins to change without you even noticing it. Something that once felt very heavy becomes much lighter. You stop thinking about every grammar rule. This does not mean grammar is no longer important. Grammar is still important. It helps you build clear sentences. It helps other people understand you. But after enough practice, grammar becomes quieter. Imagine learning to ride a bicycle again. On your first day, you think about everything. Your hands, your feet, your balance. Every small movement needs your attention. You are afraid of making a mistake. You move slowly. You stop often. But after many days, something changes. You still use the same skills. Nothing has disappeared. But now your body remembers. You look at the road instead of the pedals. You enjoy the ride instead of thinking about every movement. English grows in much the same way. At first, every sentence feels like a test. You ask yourself many questions. Is this the right tense? Should I use a or the? Is this the correct word? Sometimes you stop after every sentence. Sometimes you change the same sentence many times. Many learners do this. There is nothing wrong with it. Your brain is learning a new system. New habits always take time. But while you are reading stories, while you are listening to conversations, while you are enjoying simple English, your brain is quietly collecting patterns. You hear, I want to, again and again. You hear, I don't know. Many times. You hear? It looks like. It sounds good. I think so. Over time, these sentences begin to feel familiar. You no longer remember where you first heard them. You simply know them. That is how language grows, not only through studying, but also through meeting the same patterns many times. Imagine listening to your favorite song. The first time, you only understand a few words. The second time, you notice another sentence. After many days, you begin singing without looking at the lyrics. You are not translating. You are not studying grammar. The words simply come naturally. English patterns become part of your memory in the same quiet way. Think about a small child. The child says, I want milk. Nobody gave the child a grammar book. Nobody explained sentence structure. The child heard the sentence many times. Then one day the child said it naturally. That is one of the most powerful ways people learn language. We remember patterns. Then we use them. As your collection of patterns becomes larger, speaking begins to feel different. You no longer build every sentence from the beginning. Instead, your mind already has many useful pieces. You simply put them together. Imagine building a small house with blocks. At first, you only have a few blocks. Building is difficult. But every week, someone gives you more. Soon, you have enough to build almost anything. Sentence patterns are like those blocks. Every story gives you a few more. Every lesson gives you a few more. Every conversation gives you a few more. One day, you notice something surprising. Someone asks you a simple question. You answer immediately. After speaking, you suddenly think, I didn't stop to remember the grammar. The sentence simply came out. Maybe it was not perfect. That is perfectly fine. Real conversations are not perfect. Even native speakers sometimes stop. Sometimes they change a sentence halfway through. Sometimes they forget a word. That does not stop communication. The goal has never been perfection. The goal is connection. The goal is sharing ideas. The goal is understanding each other. As you become more comfortable, your confidence also grows. You speak a little more. You write a little more. You worry a little less. Mistakes still happen. They always will. But mistakes no longer feel like failure. They become part of learning. Think about a person learning to swim. The first time in the water feels uncomfortable. Every movement feels difficult. Then, little by little, the water feels friendly. The same water, a different swimmer. English is like that. The language has not changed. You have changed. Your experience has changed. Your confidence has changed. That is why everything feels easier. You are beginning to trust yourself. You are beginning to trust what you already know. And when that quiet confidence begins to grow, learning itself starts to feel different. Learning no longer feels like something you must do. Little by little, it becomes something you want to do. That is one of the happiest changes an English learner can experience. At the beginning, studying often feels like hard work. You open a book because you think you should. You review vocabulary because you have to. You practice grammar because you hope it will help. Sometimes you enjoy it. Sometimes you do not. Many learners know this feeling very well. There are days when everything feels exciting. There are also days when nothing feels easy. Both kinds of days are normal. Every learner has them. But if you keep going, another quiet change begins. You stop thinking only about improving. Instead, you become interested. You become curious. You begin asking different questions. Instead of asking, how many words did I learn today? You begin asking, what happens next in this story? Instead of asking, did I study enough today? You begin thinking, I want to hear one more chapter. That small change is very important. Curiosity is stronger than pressure. Pressure makes us tired. Curiosity helps us continue. Imagine reading a simple story before bed. You tell yourself, I will read only one page. Then you finish that page. You smile. You turn another page. Soon you have read 5 pages without noticing the time. You were not forcing yourself. You simply wanted to know what happened next. That is the kind of learning that lasts. Think about a child building something with blocks. The child is not watching the clock. The child is not counting the number of blocks. The child keeps building because it is fun. Learning grows best when it feels like that. Of course, not every lesson will be exciting. Not every page will become your favorite. That is perfectly fine. Even people who love reading do not love every book. Even musicians do not enjoy practicing every single day. But they continue because they enjoy the journey more than the difficulty. The same thing begins to happen with English. You notice a new word in a movie. Instead of feeling nervous, you feel interested. You hear a sentence in a podcast. You think, I know that expression. A smile quietly appears on your face. No one else notices, but you notice. Those small moments become little rewards. They remind you that your time has not been wasted. Imagine walking up a mountain. While you are climbing, you mostly look at the ground. You watch your next step. You do not notice how high you have climbed. Then you stop for a moment. You look behind you. Suddenly you see the view. The houses below look very small. The road looks much shorter than before. Only then do you realize how far you have come. Learning English feels very similar. Most days, you only see today's lesson, today's page, today's conversation. But after many months, you suddenly look back. You remember when simple sentences felt impossible. You remember when every conversation felt frightening. Now those same things feel much easier. Not because the language became easier, because you became stronger. That realization gives you energy. It makes you want to continue. Many learners think motivation comes first. They wait until they feel inspired. Then they begin studying. But real progress often works the other way around. You begin with one small action, then another. Slowly, motivation follows. One page becomes another page. One lesson becomes another lesson. One week becomes another week. Without realizing it, studying becomes part of your daily life. It no longer feels unusual. It simply feels normal. Just like drinking a cup of coffee in the morning. Just like taking a short walk. Just like saying hello to a friend. English quietly becomes part of your everyday life. When that happens, something very important has already changed. You are no longer chasing English. English is beginning to walk beside you. And when you finally notice that quiet change, one last realization is waiting for you. That realization is much quieter than most people expect. One day you stop asking, when will my English become natural? The question simply disappears, not because someone answered it, not because you reached a perfect level, but because your attention has changed. You are no longer thinking about becoming better every minute. You are simply using English. That is a beautiful moment. At the beginning, many learners watch the calendar. They count the days. They count the lessons. They count the words they have learned. Sometimes they feel happy. Sometimes they feel disappointed. They always wonder how much longer the journey will be. That feeling is completely normal. Everyone wants to see progress. Everyone hopes that one day everything will suddenly become easy. But language rarely changes in one big moment. It changes through hundreds of small moments. Imagine filling a clear glass with water. One drop falls. Nothing seems different. Another drop falls. The glass still looks almost empty. Then another. And another. You cannot see much change after each drop, but you keep adding water. After enough time, the glass becomes full. No single drop did all the work. Every drop mattered. Learning English grows in the same quiet way. Every page you read is one drop. Every story you hear is one drop. Every conversation is one drop. Even every mistake is one drop. Nothing is wasted. Everything teaches you something. Sometimes the lesson is a new word. Sometimes it is a better sentence. Sometimes it is simply more confidence. Many learners worry too much about mistakes. They think mistakes mean they are failing. But mistakes are proof that you are trying. Imagine a child learning to walk. The child falls, then stands up again, then falls once more. Nobody looks at the child and says, "You should stop trying." Everyone smiles. Everyone knows that falling is part of learning. English is no different. Every mistake teaches your brain. Every correction makes you stronger. The people who improve are not the people who never make mistakes. They are the people who keep going after making them. That is why patience is so important. Patience is not waiting without doing anything. Patience is continuing even when the results are still small. Think about the sunrise. The sky does not become bright all at once. First, the darkness becomes a little softer. Then a little color appears. Minute by minute, the world becomes brighter. Nobody notices the exact second when night becomes morning. It simply happens. Your English changes in that same quiet way. One day, you suddenly understand a story more easily. Another day, you answer a question without translating. Later, you laugh at an English joke. Weeks later, you finish a book that once looked impossible. Each moment feels small. Together, they change everything. Now think about your own journey. Perhaps you still feel like a beginner. Perhaps you still make many mistakes. Perhaps there are days when you feel tired. That is all right. You do not need to know everything today. You only need to keep taking the next step. Read one more page. Listen to one more story. Learn one more expression. Speak one more sentence. Those small choices create something much bigger than you can see today. If you remember only one thing from this story, let it be this. Natural English is not something that suddenly appears. It quietly grows inside you. It grows while you are reading. It grows while you are listening. It grows while you are making mistakes. It grows while you are trying again. You may not notice it today. You may not notice it tomorrow. But if you continue, one day you will look back with a smile. You will remember when every sentence felt difficult. You will remember when every new word felt impossible. You will remember wondering if you would ever become a natural English speaker. Then you will realize something wonderful. You have already been changing for a very long time. The signs were always there. They were simply quiet. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this story helps you trust your own journey a little more. Be patient with yourself. Enjoy every small step. Keep your curiosity. Keep your confidence. And most of all, keep going. Your English is growing every single day, even on the days when you cannot see it. One quiet step today will become something amazing tomorrow. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.